Hello, this is Andy Pollock. I'm president of the board of the South Coast LGBT Network. And I'm here today to do another part of our series on reflections on faith, part of our Pride Spirituality series. And today I have with me Reverend Michelle Walsh from the First Parish Church in Taunton, Massachusetts. Michelle, I'd like to ask you a few questions.
Sure.
First of all, is how did you come to an acceptance of LGBT folks and your own personal journey?
Yeah, I think we probably should just start with my own personal journey first, because I do identify as queer. Formerly, I identified as bisexual, but I'll just say with menopause, I now identify as panaffectional, if I can say that on video. So, yeah, so I identify as queer, and that actually was a journey that I began when I was first introduced to Unitarian Universalism, which is my faith tradition, and began advocating within my congregation then as a layperson for the welcoming congregation program that Unitarian Universalists lead and run. So part of that was my taking that program, and that was as a young adult, really beginning to be self-reflective about my own sexual identity, sexual orientation, all of that.
Well, that's great. So you worked through yourself and through the congregation to bring about kind of an opening or coming out for us. Now, that
Mm-hmm.
was probably in the 90s, I would say.
Yeah, so I joined a Unitarian Universalist congregation in Newton in 1989 as a young adult. And not too long after that, we were initiating the process of becoming what's called a welcoming congregation within our faith tradition, which entails people in the congregation going through a formal educational process about LGBTQ um, identity. Later, transgender was incorporated into it. It wasn't in its initial form. But at that time, I was also one of the leaders of the Social Action Committee, and this was something that I experienced as right to do and part of our faith tradition to advocate for the worth and dignity of every person and human rights. And so I was part of helping that program to come into being in Newton. And then I was also on my personal journey with it at the time as well.
That's fantastic. I love that they have a course to take on LGBT.
Oh,
That's
that we have a
wonderful.
lot as Unitarian Universalists. We also have something called the OWL program, Our Whole Lives, which is we educate our young kids, our youth, um, about sexuality and all the different varieties of sexuality and being safe and healthy, and our orientation to our bodies and to each other.
Fantastic. Boy, sounds didn't sound like Sunday school that I went to, but that's another
Mm-hmm.
story.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, what can people tell me a little bit about First Parish? It has an interesting history.
It's one of the oldest congregations in Massachusetts, if not across the country. It was gathered initially in 1637 by Puritans, and there has been a meeting house, a church on this site since 1647. The current building that we're in dates back to 1830. So there's been a few different ones on this site. And it's very historic. Taunton itself was known as Kohanet to the Wampanoag people. So there's a lot of complicated relationships between the settlers, the English settlers, and the Wampanoag people, as we know in history. And some of that history also is part of our church's legacy, for good or for ill. We have a stained glass window in our church that reflects some history that is more controversial, that what was happening with the Wampanoag people was much more friendly and voluntary than it actually was. So if you want the real scoop in history about King Philip's War and the Wampanoag history, you have to go across the street to the Old Colony History Museum, which has a wonderful exhibit on the second floor that I recommend everyone go check out, so that you really know what the real history is of the King Philip's War. But we are quite old and quite historic and well known for what we do here in Taunton, for lots of public activities. Mm-hmm.
Lovely. We had Taunton your church hosted the Trans Day of Remembrance in November.
The first transgender day of remembrance within Taunton. The first public transgender day of remembrance. I am very proud of the fact that that happened on my watch in December. Yes.
Excellent. Excellent. We have Family Fun Day coming up.
This Saturday. Yep.
So looking forward to that. What can people expect when they walk in the door at First Parish? If I've had a wonderful experience myself.
You did. You could speak to that yourself, Andy, what you noticed and what was surprising to you. Because I remember one thing that surprised you was our music choices.
I loved it.
Yeah, what do you remember about our music choices?
We sang Lady Gaga. And we sang Cyndi Lauper. Not the traditional Victorian hymns of 6-8 meter. It was lovely. I really enjoyed it.
Yeah, we're quite well known for our popular music program, so very, very engaging of the congregation. The congregation itself is very welcoming and inclusive. It is a come as you are congregation, and we really mean that. It doesn't matter how you dress. You don't have to dress up to be in church. I wear blue jeans. I wear blue jeans as a minister, and I speak from the floor more often than not as a minister. Sometimes I'll be up on the pulpit, but when I'm coming down, I'm usually interacting with the congregation. So we are lively and engaging. Our music is reflective of that. And we're also welcoming on the level of the body and what needs to happen. So if you would like to say, if you need to wiggle or fidget or walk around, you can do that. You can sit comfortably in the back, not in the pews, but in couches in the back, if that's more comfortable for you. If you have children who are lively and engaging and full of all kinds of diverse ways of behaving, we are very welcoming of that. We've had kids who just run around and get loud and noisy, but we also have an excellent religious education program with an amazing faith formation director who really supports the kids. So there's lots always happening here. So you come on a Sunday morning and check it out. We also have lots of ways that we engage the community, anything from our food pantry, which is a no documents necessary food pantry. So people come, they're not required to show something from a social worker that documents who they are and where they're from. And they can just walk around and pick out what they want for their groceries without just being handed a bag. And we have a fabulous thrift store that's open Thursday nights and then Saturday mornings and Friday morning, 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. And in the summer, we're ramping up for the farmers market to begin on our lawn with all kinds of healthy fruits and vegetables. And we take SNAP benefits and things like that as well. So all kinds of things happening, and we stay very engaged with the community too. We just had a major Clean Air Taunton event about that horrible gasification plant that Aries is trying to put into Taunton, which is very bad. Going to be very bad for the community. So we had Senator Mark Pacheco here and Representative Carol Dougherty among city councilors who were present. So we do all kinds of things to stay active and engaged with the community as well, including the Family Fun Day coming up, and also that we're hosting Juneteenth on Sunday, June 18th, but we are hosting Juneteenth as well.
Excellent. Wow, you guys sound really busy. I noticed that the kids stay for half the service and then they go out and they do their own thing. So they're not.
Yeah, well, actually, sometimes we have intergenerational services, multi-generational services, and April Rosario, who's our fabulous faith formation director, leads those, like Balloon Sunday and bouncing balloons back and forth and stuff. Lots of things that she does for multi-generational services to keep the kids active and engaged. But yes, so for the most part, the kids will be there at the beginning of the service and they'll hear a wonderful story from April, and then they'll all go off to Sunday school together, or they'll also, some of them will be participating in OWL, the Our Whole Lives curriculum that I mentioned before for youth.
Sounds great. So now what would you like to say to the Pride community for Pride? What would your words be?
I would just say, have a wonderful, happy Pride Day. I will be there. I will be looking forward to it. I'll have my rainbow socks on, most likely. I don't have a unicorn hat, but I was showing Andy my unicorn that sits in my office and stuff. So I just want everybody to have a fun time, a safe time, and just a renewing time for knowing that all that you are is wonderful, accepted, to be appreciated, and that the queer community really brings so much life and new perspective to everything, right? It is, we bring something that is valuable for everybody, and we need to understand that, right? And embrace that.
Well, that's wonderful. Those are wonderful words. And thank you, Reverend Michelle. Reverend
Thank
Michelle
you.
Walsh from the First Unitarian Parish Church in Taunton, Massachusetts. The directions are, it's right on, if you can find Taunton Green, you can find the church, right? It's
Yep, 76 Church Green. We're right across from the Old Colony History Museum. And I'll stress and add that we are Unitarian Universalists. So we are two religious traditions that came together in 1961, and we are shaped by both of those traditions in ways that are, it can be viewed as culturally Christian, but we are also, we expand beyond what's typically regarded as Christian.
okay.
In our tradition, because we seek the wisdom from all the world religions. We are an ethical tradition that are bound by shared values and shared principles, and drawing from the wisdom of many different traditions. So people can be atheists, they can be humanists, they can be Christian, they can be Jewish, they can be Hindu, Muslim, Buddhist. I'm a Buddhist practitioner. I call myself a Unitarian Universalist who practices Buddhism. Okay, so it's just important to know that we are very broad-based in who we are and what we all differently believe in.
Excellent. Excellent. Well, thank you so much for your time. I
Oh,
really
thank
appreciate
you
it.
for the offer. Yeah, the opportunity.